beat them, including the first one that Legacy won here. But we are into champs like the Chiefs on the blue side here for their second time out. Legacy here over on the red side. Rek'Sai and Zed, the first two bans, and Kalista there are banned by Legacy.
Okay, so we're starting slow. Of course, it was Legacy. Tallywacker was the one playing the Kalista in that game, and it was the super tank, the Sion especially, that Legacy had no answer for. So will Sion see the ban list like he's seen so many times so far in the OPL, or will that be left up? And you know if it's left up, Swipe is going to snap it off instantly.
Yeah, he loves these big tanks. We saw his Maokai earlier today as well. That's actually a ban here by Legacy. Lissandra, the last one for Chiefs, still one of the strongest champions in the league. And Legacy, they got a lot they want to ban, but they only have one ban left.
Look, if any indication has been the previous game, it's probably going to be Swiper's Sion. You know, just look at the previous matchup or his other Sion games and show just how strong he is in that champion. Or maybe they can respond to kind of the lack of lane pressure that Sion has and have a pocket counter pick. They banned the LeBlanc. Of course, LeBlanc, Swiffer's main champion. So many MVPs already on that champion. It leaves the Sion open and gobbled away.
Yeah, I mean, Swiper, like you mentioned, just snaps it up. They're happy to take that away. Very safe in almost any landing situation as well. Just a solid addition to almost any team comp.
But it's worth noting again, safe, but not necessarily going to overpower an enemy top lane. There are a lot of flexible picks you can take against the Sion. Hecarim might be one that we see coming through from Cardred. It is available. We've already seen in previous weeks, Perfection's top Hecarim in particular was just a sight of beauty. So there's no reason we might not see a Hecarim come through in this game. But they're going for the flexible tank, the 1v2 specialist, decent in a 1v1, good wave clear, great CC. Sion does a lot of things great. They pick him up.
Yeah, just wants to be the big frontliner that the Chiefs really look for in their team fights. But Legacy have picked up their bottom lane, already taking two very strong champions away from the Chiefs as well as for themselves. That's Corki for the AD and Janna as their support.
And taking Corki away from Radius, synonymous, just like Swiffer is synonymous with Ahri, you'd say the same thing about Corki's Radius. Played it through patches, through meta, very, very strong at that champion. It promotes the rotating style that Chiefs love. They love those early rotations. None better than Corki with a Trinity Force. So take it away and force Radio onto something different. Maybe the Kallista's banned away. That's not an option. We actually haven't seen him on too many other champions, so it'll be interesting to see what he breaks out in this game against the Corki.
Yeah, he's going to have to go with something, but the Chiefs going to run some of their last comp back as well. Vi back here for Spooks as well. We talk about it a lot. When Spooks plays the champion once and wins, he usually plays it again. And Nami actually the pickup here for Rosie.
Yep, so they've actually taken away from potentially a Yasuo pick. Of course, Yasuo, one of your favorites, Space Jam. It would be great to see Choo-Choo's move on to a champion. Now, that's probably not going to be the other game, but look at this, a Diamond Special. Straight from Europe, it's the jungle Sejuani.
Yeah, Carbon's been mixing it up recently as well. He's been playing some pretty funky stuff, and we have Rumble here for Cardred, which will be their top laner, but Sejuani, a lot of AoE control in those two picks.
And Gambit has definitely led the way with this Sejuani pick. In the late game, Sejuani does so much damage with the W, has the great engage. We all know about that ultimate, Know and Fear, the ranged AoE stun. It's the early game where Sejuani struggles, but Carbon, after kind of starting to see a big carry performance on the jungle Rek'Sai, the Trinity Force jungle Rek'Sai, much like the carry performance we saw in the last series coming through, this is different because you have to be so careful in those early levels because that Piggy in the jungle, she can struggle if she's invaded on. So I expect to see Spooks play very aggressively and Chiefs in turn to try and hold down this Sejuani, stop it from becoming a late game tanky beast Sejuani.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And the Chiefs instead going to make some mid-game power here as well. Swiffer's going to go back to Ahri, it seems like. Of course, this is nerfed Ahri. And Radio's going to go with an old favorite of his. It's Kog'Maw there for the bottom lane.
So the blind pick Ahri makes sense, of course, opting into skill matchups against Choo-Choo's, against one of his most respected enemies and foes in the Oceanic scene. The Kog'Maw, though, is an interesting one. Kog'Maw Nami actually a very strong laning matchup for the Kog'Maw. A lot of synergy between the Nami E, the Astral Blessing. No, that's not right. Okay, the E, regardless, the range, slow, and magic damage. And, of course, all the magic damage coming out from the Kog'Maw W's. There's a lot of lane synergy there, but not necessarily that much peel coming through. It's only really Nami peeling for this Kog'Maw.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the Chiefs just going to go very far forward. He's going to have to play aggressively with this Cog. Probably going to expect an early Trinity Force. It's actually quite good for mid-game, even though Kog'Maw is a late-game carry. So we'll see what they do want to go for here. Chiefs are done there with their lineup. Legacy have to pick a mid laner, it seems like, here for Choo-Choo's. And he doesn't have very much time left to pick, and he is going to play it safe. Actually goes for Ezreal there.
So the Ezreal mentor is a double AD coming through. Of course, a deceptive amount of magic damage coming out of Corki Ezreal. So not necessarily going to be a true double AD, and they do have magic damage coming from the top lane. But when we're talking about tankiness, it's Sejuani or bust, really, in terms of big health items or frontline coming through from Legacy. so much riding on Carbon to navigate that early jungling path, which can be difficult against the Chiefs, known for their early rotations and skirmishing, and get into the late game phase. Otherwise, they're going to really fall apart in terms of tankiness.
Yeah, and this is interesting to me in this draft because it seems like both teams have very strong mid games here in the comps that they picked, but they both sort of have a bit of a late game insurance policy. On Legacy, it's actually Carbon from the jungle, has a big tanky late game jungler, and Chiefs, it's the Cogmore. So we know that they both love to fight each other. The Chiefs especially almost always play for mid-game. So this is a very interesting comp that they put together.
And it's not the Juggermore, you know. We've seen the GE Tigers. They love the Juggermore, the double supports for the Cogmore, and the Cogmore fighting in the front line and kind of baiting the enemy to engage upon him with all the supportive abilities coming through. This is not the case with Chiefs comp. They've got the Nami for disengage, and they've got 3 divers, you'd have to say, between Ari, Vi, and Sion. Cogmore's going to have to do a lot of damage with little peel coming through from his teammates. So really going to have to rely on that positioning Radia in the backline. So it's definitely a different type of Cogmore comp than we've been seeing on the world stage. Of course, Nami has a lot of tools that will help the Cogmore disengage, and then again the slow coming through from the E. But in the late game, you know, if the positioning ever lapses, if we ever see the massive Sejuani ult coming through, you have to say, if Legacy does one thing, it's a lot of damage.
Yeah, and after a pretty interesting drop by both sides, we'd love to know on Twitter who you think is going to win here. Get on Twitter and use the hashtag LGC win for Legacy or CHF win for the Chiefs. And it's a big matchup here, one of the biggest in the OPL, so I'm sure it's going to be pretty close no matter what it is.
Yeah, and the one thing you can say for Chiefs, they're definitely going to have the tankiness advantage with the Sion riding in the top lane. We end up with Sion versus Rumble. Sion can definitely itemize well and deal with the Rumble, so it's a decent laning matchup coming through. And the early levels can't trade with the Flame Spitter from, say, level 4 and 5 onwards. So it's much the same flavor as, for example, an Aurelia versus Rumble matchup to some degree. Of course, doesn't necessarily have kill pressure when we hit level 7, 9, but can out-sustain the big damage trades coming through from the Flame Spitter.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about the bottom lane here as well. We have Corki, of course, here. Pretty standard pickup coming through on the AD carry role. Double AD is interesting again. We'll get to Legacy's comp in a second, but how do you think Cogmore fits into this comp? Because you already mentioned there's not that much peel for him. So what can he accomplish in what's a very aggressive, dive-oriented team comp?
So the one thing that he does have is a strong front line. So at least he has a front line that he can position behind. He's going to have to be very different with his position than we've seen other Cogmores. Cogmores have been opened up to play aggressively with the Lulu tops, with the Janna supports. Okay, Nami, if you're going to not have Janna, is the second strongest disengaged support, but his position's going to have to be a lot more conservative unless we're talking about Sion, Vi in particular getting really big. If we see a repeat of the previous game with a Trinity Force Vi and they're able to get away with that with a Soul Tank lineup, maybe Cogmore can get more aggressive, but he's going to have to be pretty passive and trading upon his very long range in team fights to be able to do damage. And the laning matchup is interesting as well. The Corki versus Cogmore matchup. It's actually decent for Cogmore just because, again, he has the ability to ramp up that range with the W. You put points in it, and you can trade well with Corki. You're not often in range of the Phosphorus Bomb auto-attack combos outside of, say, the first 3 levels of the lane. So you can farm from range. Okay, you can't control the wave, so Corki can push aggressively, and maybe Carbon will have a bit of pressure relieved upon him, or maybe even Carbon will get aggressive on that Sejuani and try and force things. But at least with the lane matchups Legacy have, they can play aggressively and just buy time for Carbon to get tanky from the jungle.
Yeah, and that was the next point I wanted to go to, because the jungle matchup, like you mentioned in the draft, is super interesting here. It's not aggressive junglers here. It's very farm heavy, almost on both sides here. They're big level 6 junglers, Vi and Sejuani. Obviously, Sejuani a bit more reliant on that farm early on. Her early game, like you mentioned, can be a bit weak, but it's not Spooks' Lee Sin that's here. It's not a super aggressive jungler. Can Vi realistically get aggressive in this sort of team comp and bully Sejuani in her jungle?
I mean, the question, of course, we had a skirmish jungler versus a farming jungler in the first game. Of course, that was Vi against Lee Sin. And it was the counter ganks that really worked for Spooks and got Chiefs ahead in that game. Counter ganks probably not going to be as critical in this match just because, again, Carbon going to be doing a lot of farm. It's going to be a return of perhaps the Udyr game where he wasn't really pressuring lanes, at least without a friend coming from bot. In that game, it was Ejim on the Leona with the roams to help him with CC. If Carbon does get aggressive, you still have counter gank potential, but when it's pure ganks, it's only really damage coming out of the jungle for the Vi. Not a lot of, there is setup CC coming from Swiper and Swiffer, so maybe if they get a very favorable charm coming through or the stun coming through from Sion, they can get some picks early, but I have to think it's going to be balanced farming from both, and you have to say that suits the Sejuani, because look, if they can force a Dragon early with Sejuani Ultimate and the Rumble Equalizer, you can just see in your head just how strong the layering of magic damage will be in such a fight.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the pick potential of the Chief console, because I think that's what they're trading on in the mid-game stages of this game. And for me, Kog'Maw is not so much, a big late-game threat in this comp, but just someone that consistently follows up with long range against the pick CC to make sure the damage comes in.
He's just going to have to be very on point with his positioning, whatever the case, because it's not the peel, it's not the Juggernaut, it's just a Kog'Maw without necessarily a team trying to focus him. It's not protect the Kog'Maw, but Kog'Maw, he can do a lot of damage, that's for sure.
He can, and we'll have to see what happens here. The Chiefs vs Legacy going to clash here for the second and final time in the OPL here, at least in the split, of course. Could see themselves in the playoffs. The Chiefs currently up in this particular series here against Legacy, of course. The Chiefs still undefeated as well, and you have to think now at 9-0, Legacy are the last team standing that they're really worried about.
Yeah, the Chiefs are licking their lips, looking for that double-digit victories in a row. That's the big thing they want. They want to work towards 14-0 and just have so much confidence riding towards playoffs. So far, no aggressive invades, but Legacy, they're looking for something in the bottom jungle.
Yeah, they're going to get some wards down here as well. Rosie actually going to poke one down, but a decent ward. They're out towards the Raptor camp coming through for Legacy. Cardred actually finding Swiper on the top side. Just going to poke him back here with a bit of Flame Spirit, and kind of curious choices. There are lots of regen in the top lane. It's Crystalline Flask versus Doran Shield.
Yeah, the Doran Shield is interesting. We saw a previous Rumble actually going, we saw, I believe, the sub top laner for Immunity rocking the Boots 4-pot star on Rumble. The Doran Shield makes a lot more sense to me, at least. There is the potential to reduce the auto attack damage. It gives you a bit of health, so of course it's harder to turret dive someone with a Doran Shield compared to, for example, the Boots star. I think it just gives more balanced options. Okay, it's only the one potion, so you have to watch the early trades, but I think you'll do just fine.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We are going to break out into standard lanes, it seems like, here as well. So minions have spawn. Everyone will break out here. We're going to have Grump into blue there for Carbon, and actually the same there for Spooks over on the other side.
So we're going to have to track these junglers earlier with Spooks with an MVP winning performance in the first game, really rotating smartly on the Vi. That was counter ganking. This is probably going to have to be more pure ganking. But we see Swiper, he's going for a bit of cheese.
Yep, happily going to take away the Wolf Camp here. We'll use the passive there to make sure he picks it up. We'll die, of course. Science passive will regenerate him here, and he'll keep all the golden experience that he gets through killing this camp. So at this point, it was funny the first time, maybe a bit scary the second, but just standard Scion play now.
So he's lost 2 melee minions so far. You can see Rumble's very aggressively pushing the top tower. Will force out the teleport, so at least won't be able to get away with the cheese and keep the teleport. So smart to push in the wave Cardred, but in terms of experience, you're definitely going to give the advantage to Swiper once these minions start to die.
Yeah, it does actually have I believe a ward that he got back early as well. So just wants to stay safe. Isn't interested in any early pressure that Carbon might think to put out here. And Ezreal are in the mid lane. This, to me, is almost the definition of skill matchup.
Absolutely, though. Ezreal, he wants to play very aggressively with just the Doran Blade. You'd fancy him in a matchup against Swiffer because he can push aggressively with the auto attacks. He doesn't have to worry about controlling the wave. He wants to push Ahri in and force Swiffer to use as much mana as possible at clearing creeps. But once the buys start coming, once we see Swiffer working towards the Merrill-Nomicon and Chuchu's trying to power up the tier, that's when Swiffer can really overtake this lane on its trademark Ahri.
Yeah, so we'll have to keep track of that as it develops in the mid lane. But back down to the bottom, our final matchup here in these lanes. Kog'Maw Nami versus Janna Corki. And so far, so good here for the Kog'Maw. Radiant even in CS against Tallywhacker.
And Corki's so good at bullying people that at his range or shorter, whenever it's a 550 range carry, Corki can get in range of the phosphorus bomb, get the auto attacks, get the favorable burst trades. But Rady is going to be smart. Once he's got a few levels in W especially, he's going to be able to hang back, trade very well, and get, 3 or 4 auto attack trades in for whatever Corki looks to trade. So he can actually survive this lane just fine, and he should be able to keep up in CS against the Corki.
Yeah, and actually the supports here I think are interesting. We mentioned that it's basically the 2 premier disengaged supports here, but this has not been standard fare for EGM for a little while here, and Legacy is sort of relying on what a one-tank lineup here, but Carbon actually going to sneak in a good ward though for Swiper, and he'll walk immediately back towards his turret.
You mentioned the supports. We haven't seen a lot of Nami, but of course Nami gives Kog'Maw sustain, so of course has the sustain advantage over Janna, and Janna, she only has the shield to provide defensive options, so in terms of disengage, going to be excellent disengage in the late game, but in terms of laning power, just whack on the Tykor's Blessing, just help with the trading in the early game. Of course, it will help with last hitting as well. Spooks, he's starting the dragon so early, level 3.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we have seen from Viz. She does so much damage to neutral objective. That's one of the other things she's good at early. And right now, Spooks very comfortably soloing out the dragon at almost 5 minutes.
So watching the health bar, it doesn't look like he's going to get any help. No, Nami is kind of posturing towards, going to give him a heal at least. It looks like he's probably got solo potential, but the heal, just top him off.
Yeah, just to make sure there, but Spooks does pick it up. Legacy might have a decent idea with Nami left lane, but that almost looks like a ward pathing there for Rosie. So a very sneaky first dragon there for Chiefs, and Spooks clearly been doing his homework from the jungle.
Absolutely. With the posturing, you saw Nami didn't rotate over to dragon until, again, it could have been a bluff. It could have been a ward being put down. So you have to say, largely going to be unexpected coming through from Chiefs, and that's actually a big thing for them. So they're against a Rumble and a Sejuani. Stealing away the first dragon, throwing off the timings for Legacy might prove to be really big strategically as we move on to this game.
Absolutely. Here is back in the top. Swiper just moving in. It actually cancels the back, I think, as the mini hit him in the brush there. But Swiper, again, just going to stay safe and farm here and very even in the top lane.
It's no coincidence that Chiefs have eaten so many Scion bans. It's either been Scion picks or Scion bans coming against the Chiefs. Swiper, we credit him a lot. He has those pocket picks. He loves that Tryndamere, but when there's meta champions that are strong, you know that he can play them.
Yeah, Swiper always has the top three ready to go and well practiced here as Chiefs are really aggressively pushing in the bottom side. We talk a lot about the matchup, and it's certainly going ahead for Kog'Maw Nami here. And we already look at Nami as a decent matchup against Janna in general when we look at supports, and Kog'Maw here again, especially with the Bioarcane Barrage up, so easy for him to trade here.
And it's definitely an identity crisis for Corki because they're so used to aggressively trading. The burst trades don't work against the range of the Kog'Maw. And Tallywacker, he needs to start using his mana to push back this lane, or he's going to find himself under turret, eating Bioarcane Barrage after Bioarcane Barrage auto attack very soon.
And Swift and Spooks going to be glued together here, roaming in towards the top. So it looks like Kadra might get towered out here. Spooks only level 4, but Swift is level 6. Swiper's already started it. The Q goes in, that's going to force the flash. The Bolt Breaker lands in. Charm will miss there, but Swift has got more than enough damage, and Spooks claims first blood.
And we were actually talking about the fact, okay, only damage coming. Will we see the roam? It wasn't the support, but it was, of course, the mid laner. Excellent job by Swiffer, able to outpush Choo-Choos in this lane. He used the item timing very, very well. Went back to buy the tier to Choo-Choos, allowed a lot of time for Ari to put pressure on the lane, goes top, and they get first blood.
Yeah, forcing out the teleport as well. So that next dragon that's coming in sneakily for Chiefs probably means that Kadra won't have his teleport available when they go back. So very strong play, not just now, but a bit of future planning there as well.
Absolutely. It's going to be a few seconds after the dragon respawns, probably about 30 seconds. So it will be, again, a window to lock down that second dragon against. We have to come back and refer to it. It's double AD. It's a Corki comp. It's Corki Rumble, which already should be, all right, Trinity Force, Equalizer, should be easy to pick up the dragons. They're not even going to have the timer for this second dragon. And potentially Chiefs are going to steal away any sort of neutral control that Legacy, honestly, they've picked their comp for.
Yeah, but down the bottom here, Rady going to get aggressed on Choo-Choos over the side with the E. Rosie now could be in trouble, does get knocked off, and a good foster spawn there for Tallywacker, but Rady with the W and the Tide Caller's blessing on just chunks out Choo-Choos.
Yeah, there's no wards whatsoever. That was a completely unexpected gank coming through. No purchase, of course, only damage coming through from Choo-Choos on his roam. He just gets the True Shot Barrage back. Didn't work out for Legacy with that time committed to bot lane.
And Swiper now back in the top, punching Kadra in the back of the suit. Just doing good damage, and early Spectre's Cal already up. I mean, this matchup's already fairly safe for some, but you have to think it turns if Swiper's able to get an early Spirit Visage from his assist gold.
Yeah, we saw the True Shot Barrage come through. Wasn't able to steal away blue buff with Choo-Choos, but you're correct. The trades were looking very good for Kadra in the early laning phase, but you pick up a Spectre's Cal, you have that extra regen whenever you take magic damage, which is pretty much all the time when you're a melee champion trying to kill CS under the front of the Flame Spitter. And Swiper is going to be just that bit more comfortable in lane.
Yeah, Rosie actually used the Tidal Wave back in the bottom side, so tried to get something going, but Radiant instead will hold the creep wave here as he can. Continue to actually deny CS away now, and we talked a lot about the supports already. Ejim, this matchup is a little bit... You almost mentioned a schizophrenic here for Corki, who wants to be aggressive, but just can't. And you have to feel that Legacy just picked this Janna because their comp needs it. They have only one tank otherwise.
Now, Corki is so consistent in every lane, barring the likes of Kog'Maw once he's got levels in his Bioarcane Barrage, and Caitlyn. You know, when he's really outranged, he can't do those damage trades that he's so well known for that he needs for lane control. He just has few options. You know, he has to eat all this harass coming through from Radiant. Is eating a lot of his health in harass. He's going to have to go back and probably get an unfavorable creep reset once the creeps start to hit the turret. And unless they get some pressure relieved by the Sejuani, and again, Sejuani's level 6 has been straight farming. She'll soon have a lot of gank pressure, but so far, I mean, Kog'Maw's been able to freely push with no one to punish her.
Yeah, and Chiefs are still going. They're actually continuing to push waves into this turret. Ejim is going to keep it safe there with the shield for a little while, and Rady with only 500 range with the W turned on. Can't do too much here, but Talibaki going to get chunked back again. Living Artillery is also up for Rady, so this lane keeps getting worse, and Legacy bottom lane are forced to back early.
All the waves, you can see on the minimap, everyone's pushing in, whether it's top lane and Sion pushing in the Rumble, whether it's mid lane, you have a significant wave clear advantage once you got this 20% CDR and AP coming through from Swiffer. And we already watched Rady and Rosie repeatedly pushing in bot. On the one hand, you can say, all right, embarrassment of options for Kardrid, but on the other hand, everyone's calling for help. Everyone's gankable. And if Carbon makes the wrong choices or Spooks makes the correct choice and predicts and is there for the counter gank, suddenly this game is going to fall apart and really move towards the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I love that the Chiefs almost exploited the farming nature of this Sejuani just by saying, you know what, we're going to be aggressive in all of our lanes.
Well, if anyone plays predictable, whether it's a laner or a jungler, you can take advantage of that. You know, you can take advantage of these Sion suicide starts by warding up the Raptors. That's why it's smart that he actually started the Wolves, just to throw off any sort of early warding pattern coming through from Legacy. If you know a jungler's going to farm up to 6, then, you know, push your lanes and take advantage of that. Rosie is going to face check a Piggy.
Oh, actually does put a ward down, so we'll spot them. The very nice wall placement coming through for Rosie. True Shot Barrage comes in, does not graze Kog'Maw. That pink ward, though, wants to get defended, but Carbon and Egypt will clean it out.
Yeah, I think Chuchus was expecting a team fight to start there. Of course, there was the potential to use the ultimate coming through the Glacial Prison, I believe it is, from Carbon. But Corki wasn't in a position to put up any follow-up damage. And you can see how this top lane is morphed. Swiper's going to push down this turret solo.
Yeah, he's actually just going to get it here. Kardrid backed off, roaming down towards the middle, bottom. Tried to maybe look in for an early dragon, and that gives Chiefs a very quick turret here. Swiper actually might have been fancy a fight here. Still taking the turret, has to be careful. Goes back and whacks it. And actually Spooks is coming in. Pops the ulti there for Swiper Q. Going to get channeled. Does get the knockup. Spooks falls in with a Vault Breaker. And Kardrid nowhere to go. Uses his ulti and Spooks saves his.
Yeah, Spooks can hold on to the ultimate and they pick up a kill. Probably Karba's not going to repeat the mistake of Zahi and come in and die. But he does rotate and pick up what will be a very important dragon. No real way for Chiefs to answer this, so at least they pick up an answering objective, but it's not going to counter the massive amount of gold from both the kill and the turret coming through from the Chiefs.
No, and you have to think that's a very deliberate decision by the Chiefs to pressure the top lane, knowing the Dragons back up and say, you know what, we've already got one, go ahead and take it.
Absolutely. They're not going to worry about it. It's going to solidify their gold lead, and you have to think, again, Legacy have built to pick up these dragons. For them to be 1-1 at this point, they'd expect to be 2-1. They'd expect to be ahead in terms of neutral objectives with the comp they have, with their mid-game power, but they're behind in turrets and even in dragons, and 3,000 gold is the lead for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and Carbon actually came down to try and equalize a bit of that lead, but was spotted out by a ward. Legacy did clean it out, but Carbon going to go back to the jungle for a little while now. We can see Raider on the way to his Trinity Force. We alluded to it in the draft, but what is it about Trinity Force that's so good on Kog'Maw?
Well, the thing about Kog'Maw is he wasn't instantly thought of as a Trinity Force champion. There was a lot of questions when I believe it was Imp that broke out the Trinity Force Kog'Maw, you know, many a moon ago. But again, it allows him to have a bit of extra mobility. He can sit in the backline, pop the Bioarcane Barrage, and have kind of a burst trade, because of course the Trinity Force will proc on that first Bioarcane Barrage auto attack, and just, you know, get so many more autos in. It allows you to orb walk forward. You can already see the damage. It's not necessarily proccing it a lot, but doing so much trade damage.
Yeah, actually down the bottom, Tally's in a bit of trouble off screen. Swiffer did clear out a couple wards, but Radiant going to come back in. Tally actually forced away their Spooks, was in the area, but couldn't quite pull the trigger on the ulti. But Phage with a couple components versus Sheen and Phage. Kog'Maw winning already before items, and now ahead on items, looking very strong for Radiant.
Yeah, the Tycho's Blessing, it's level 2. It's already giving a 28% slow. The burst damage of the first proc, you know, the magic damage coming through from the Tycho's Blessing, the magic percentage health damage coming through from Kog'Maw, of course, instantly applying that Trinity Force proc, at least at the moment, the Sheen proc, already doing massive burst trades. And if you're out burst trading a Corki from a range that he can't really counter burst with, there's not really much for him to do.
As we see, you're right, as we see in the top side, Swiper and Kardrid just going at it again, but Spirit Wizard done here for Swiper has to feel so comfortable at this point in the lane. It's actually 30 CS ahead as well.
The item pickups just massive for Chiefs across the board. We see Spirit Visage completed, as you mentioned, Morellonomicon and more AP, and Spooks, he wants a kill to participation.
Yeah, Swiffer diving in. Spooks going to pop the ulti, and that is going to be a kill for Vice. Swiffer probably had it solo, but Spooks just make sure.
Kill secured coming through from Spooks. He wants to keep up the 100% kill participation. It was 4-0 the previous game. It's 3-0 this one. Carbon, he just hasn't been able to get it going on Sejuani.
Yeah, Swiper actually tower diving here, but the teleport does come in. An ulti is going to land, but Swiffer, does get out of the way with the flash. Now the charm landing in onto Kardrid. Their Carbon going to move back in. Spooks charging the Vault Breaker, going to back his way off as well. And Swiper maybe caught out, kind of tap siege him there with the E. And Raider and Corki will stay down the bottom. Chiefs good control of the area.
Yeah, the Chiefs, they draw out a teleport from Khajiit. Of course, we know the Dragon's about 4 minutes away, so they'll have the teleport advantage once again when it comes to that objective. The Chiefs, they just get more with every trade. They pick up the kills. Again, it's going to be an overtuned Vi. 2 games in a row coming through from Spooks. In fact, Vi across the board is doing big things so far on this week 5.
Yeah, there's been almost a breakout champion here in the OPL, at least for this particular round, but I find it interesting as we sort of look through the rest of the matchups. Radiant, though, just chunking out Talia. Good juke at the W, though, or the Q, sorry, and Egypt actually in trouble. Radiant going to get a kill. 2v2. Doesn't need any help from Spooks this time.
You asked about the Trinity Force Kog'Maw. You saw he's able to get so many extra orders, and even without boots being picked up, he's significantly faster than even the Janna. And of course, with the Nami passive, is getting that extra burst of movement speed. So many orders getting in. Now maxed out that Biocane barrage. It's not going to get any easier for Corki in this lane.
No, it isn't at all. And we talk about Kog'Maw being a very late-game carrier. Spooks and Choo-Choo's actually might have a bit of a meeting. Spooks will queue over there. Choo-Choo's is roaming down, but he's in a power trap right now on Ezreal. Just the cooldown boots and a charging Manamune. Nothing else here for Choo-Choo's Ezreal right now.
And the thing about Choo-Choo's Ezreal is, look, he's powering up. He's doing very comparably with Swiffer in terms of CS, but he's got no pick power. He's not got no assassination power on this Ezreal pickup. I guess he had to pick for a lane matchup, but it's been consistently the case against top mids that he's been opting into wave clear champions rather than, say, for example, the Syndra that we remember him wrecking Moya's Orianna from Fortnite on. It's always been the wave clear, the damage, but he can't take the game by the hilt and really control it on a champion like Ezreal. He'll be great in a late game situation, but this game might not ever get to the late game at the rate that Chiefs are playing it.
Yeah, I almost feel the same way about the bottom side as well for Legacy. Both Ejim and Choo-Choo's big playmakers for their teams. Neither of them are playing particularly playmaking champions here. As Rosie looks for a bubble, but Carbon does queue out from under it.
Carbon's got his finished jungle item, but we haven't seen one Glacial Prison hit someone so far. It's had to be flashed away from Ahri, but hasn't found the gank timings. And again, everyone's pushing up. There's lots of people potentially to gank, but there's not a lot of power in the lanes to kind of back up the big initiation from Sejuani.
Yeah, and as we pop back down to the bottom side, Spooks rotating in with Radio and Rosie. They're going to look for a next turret here. Trinity Force Kog'Maw should shred through the outer turret fairly quickly. And we talk about Kog'Maw being a big late game carrier. If there's ever a point in the early to mid game where Kog'Maw is powerful, it's this one.
Yeah, they have the Trinity Force, so of course, just like Corki, he's very fast at taking these turrets, can take it from range with the Biocane Barrage if he's ever forced to be popped. Doesn't have to use that ability. The enemies back away, and they take out a second outer turret.
Yeah, Reddy is going to clean out the rest of the minions and then walk away with his team. Dragon up in 30 seconds, so Chiefs open up a bit of space in the bottom side. Actually, Reddy going to recall here, interestingly, but Carbon is looking in. He wants the Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, Reddy recall. He must be sitting on a lot of gold. It's about 1,400, so he picks up a Bilgewater and boots. He now is better in terms of items, but he will not be back in time for the Dragon. Or if he is, he will be back late enough that Legacy should have a complete monopoly on wards. They don't spot the ward directly on top of the Dragon. We do see defensive pink wards coming through, so they are going to be predictable in their movements, but a lot of this vision that's been set up by Rosie and the Chiefs being backed out just because we saw the purchase come through from Raiden.
Remember that Kadra can't get here instantly though, and Swiper can, so we'll see if that makes a difference. Teleport already coming in, and Raid is actually down here, so the Chiefs are going to look to force a fight here. All the ultis are up. We're going to see some blood.
So that's what the teleport bought the Chiefs. It was an aggressive back and purchase from Kog'Maw completely was able to happen because they had the teleport advantage. So that's what you get for the teleport advantage, and they're going to start the Dragon.
Yeah, Chiefs going to look to threaten. They probably want to bait out Janna Monsoon. Carbon also threatening. Actually, ulti's onto Swiper. The rest of the damage going to come in, but Swiper going to dive in now with his ulti in the backline. Spooks finds Ejim, and Raider's going to get the first kill. Carbon going to get low on a go down there as well. The ulti comes in, but Choo-Choo's and Talywhack are already out. Swiper still running in though. Swiffer does a good chunk of damage there to Choose. The Scrying will find him 2 kills for Chiefs.
And who's free hitting in the front of the fight with Trinity Force and the Bilgewater Cutler finish? None other than Radia. Takes down 2 members. No answer coming through from Legacy. Again, no crowd control really on the whole team apart from Carbon's ultimate, and it was a one-man ultimate onto the tanky Scion. That's not the engagement. They need the team fight wombos. If they're going to hit Scion every time, they just got no control over these fights.
No, and now Chiefs are even going to look to counter push down the mid side as well, rotate in and try and take it out. It's the last outer turret left amazing wave clear by Swift Azari already, and we already talked about this Kog'Maw. He goes charged very well, but Chuju does get caught by a charm. The Ignite's going to be enough for the kill, and Ejim actually might go down here as well. Radiant gets exhausted. The tower does go down, and Swiffer and Radiant going to team up again. Ejim will get out safe this time, but very aggressive play in the mid.
Absolutely so aggressive from Radiant. It was an excellent exhaust coming through from Ejim to keep his life up, but has to use his flash in a trade anyway. They take the turret. 3 out of turrets taken with a Kog'Maw comp. That's the kind of scary thing here for Legacy. They thought they had the rotational advantage. They thought they'd secured the mid game and the Dragons with Rumble, Sejuani, Corki. So many layering of ultimate possibilities. It hasn't happened in the first 20 minutes. And again, it's 7-0. It's looking like potentially a whitewash here for the Chiefs.
Yeah, 7-0 and 7,000 gold ahead already for the Chiefs. 3-0-1 for Spooks, 2-0-2 for Ara, and 2-0-1 there for Radius. So good kill distribution across the carries and big items coming through as well. A Rabadon's just on there for Ari. The Blade of the Ruin King well and truly on the way there for Radius. And the Mikhail's are halfway done for Rosie. Probably a bit more than that at this point as well. Swipe is tanky. The damage is coming from the carries. Everything's going right.
Yeah, we see Rosie and Radio waiting so patiently for a potential engage. I believe they were spotted out, so no potential kills coming out from the Nami Kog'Maw duo. True Shot Barrage being used off cooldown. This is what we commonly see with the mid Ezreal. If you're picking up the blue buff, short cooldown when you're just queuing the minion wave and proccing your Mana Moon anyway. So why not just try and cause a bit of global pressure with that ultimate?
Yeah, and you talked about it a little bit already, but towards the mid game, that's realistically the best wave clear that Ezreal has.
Actually, it's the only real wave clear that his kit has without, say, for example, an Iceborne Gauntlet. No AoE wave clear, and Carbon's been caught.
Yeah, it does get caught there. Spook's going to move him, but doesn't use the ulti. They'll bait out Cartridge, though, instead. The red buff, I believe, got donated over. Choo-Choo's getting caught in a bubble, and the Chiefs will just continue their aggression.
Yeah, they continue to push down aggressive. They're doing just fine. Legacy, they're trying to clear waves, but as mentioned, they don't have a lot of wave clear out of perhaps, you know, the ability usage by Tallywhacker on this Corki. They don't have... I mean, Ezreal's wave clear, again, it's ultimate focus. He does have the ability to queue down the waves. They can kill individual minions. Doesn't have the AoE like Corki and his Phosphorus Bomb, but it's short-range wave clear from Tallywhacker. And that's why Chiefs can pretty much push with abandon, because they have the CC advantage. They have excellent rotational advantages with the Swiper ultimate, with all the mobility that Ari and Vi have. And Radia, he just kind of freely autos happily.
And the Chiefs just hiding in the brush here as well. Legacy intelligently not really sweeping in. Swiffer still in the mid lane trying to cause a bit of a distraction. The Chiefs have a monopoly on vision in the top side. Spook's going to charge up that Q. Ejim not going to get caught, but does no. Voltbreaker not quite connecting. Spook's going to look in for a kill, but just face checks a couple members of Legacy and walks away.
Yeah, very intelligent to power up the Q before he tried to move forward. It kept his life alive, Ejim. But Chiefs, they could even realistically turret dive. You have to be so careful here if you're Legacy and Carbon in particular in the front line.
Yeah, good rotation now for Chiefs. Going to come in towards the top. Choo-Choo's actually get caught off. I think that Swiffer does actually get the solo kill off screen. So 5v4 now. The Chiefs on a power play and the tier 2 turret goes down.
It only took 2 Spirit Rush charges and the Q to instantly kill Ezreal in transition. The aggressive warding gets the pick for Swiffer. And Swiffer, he always has the pick advantage in these matchups against the top teams. They let him have the Aries and LeBlancs of the world. They pick the wave clear and they are punished on rotation every time.
Yeah, and again, Legacy just have what looks like to be too defensive of a comp. We talk about Choo-Choo's being aggressive. We talk about Ejim being a playmaker. Carbon realistically is the only one that can make plays or do engages for Legacy, and it feels like they're just missing a key component of their team.
It's just playing reactively against the Chiefs consistently is the downfall of top teams. We see so many teams opt into kind of these more... The Juggernaut was something that we actually saw against them coming through from Direwolves. In this case, it's the Sejuani jungle, which has been shown to be very powerful if he's got a secondary initiator. But how often are you realistically against a top team going to get the Glacial Prison into the Rumble Equalizer, layering on top of that the True Shot Barrage, and then having Corki free hit with the Trinity Force? Against a top team, you have to remember the Glacial Prison is very flashable. You know, once that Summon Spell is available, you're not going to get the 3-4-man Sejuani ultimates unless you have map pressure, unless you have pink wards. But how are you going to get map pressure and pink wards as a Sejuani jungle and an Ezreal mid? You don't have map pressure. There's no way to get the aggressive pink or green wards. And that's why Spooks and Chiefs are able to play so aggressively, catch people in transition. And you just, you know, you can't just sit in a lane and hope for things.
The Synder's going in. Actually, the ulti used onto Cardred. Ejim going to disengage with the Monsoon, but Janna just going to get destroyed by the damage. Spook's actually going to get the kill. Cardred getting towered out here now as Swiffer had just enough of a charge left and gets the second kill.
Yeah, and that was with Radiant and Rosie split away from the team. They were able to kill the front line very quickly, the Swiffer and the Chiefs. You look at Swiffer, he's gone the most aggressive option. He always does this on the Ahri. Most players will opt into that zone just for a defensive option, just to go into stasis. But when you're this far ahead, 10-0, you have to imagine this is getting close to a perfect game, Pastry Time. No deaths, no turrets being taken. Everything is coming up Chiefs this game.
It really is, and what a surprising result it would be for Legacy, a team that, we've mentioned it, have had an edge against Chiefs in major LAN events here in the OPL, struggled in the first game, and they're going to get Sion flashbacks or nightmares, I feel like, after this game potentially, because it's not Civ Sion in this game, but Swiper Sion is doing so much work here for Chiefs.
Yeah, the second half of 2014 was definitely one to forget for the Chiefs. Struggle Street would be an apt way of just describing how they'd get close, they'd put themselves in positions to win, and then things would just fall apart right at the end. In this particular game, they're way ahead. They're looking to just try and lock down this third dragon for even more movement speed and rotations. I just don't see how Legacy can get in, barring a miracle ultimate from Carbon.
Well, we'll have to see if they can get it done here. Legacy going to clean some Chiefs wards out of the jungle. Swiper back in the top lane does have his TP ready as well if he needs to get in there. Tutor's actually going to get caught through there. Swiffer going to land the charm. Good damage coming in, and Carbon runs in, but now Raiders going to come through. Swiffer going to Spirit Rush back in there. The damage is still coming through. Swiffer snipes the Sejuani with just the edge of the Orb of Deception.
Yeah, full tank Sejuani dies to a single rotation from Swiffer. Legacy, I overlooked one factor. They have a dragon, but that's the minimum. That doesn't give any global gold. It gives a bit of stats, in the late game. It doesn't look like they're going to be getting any more dragons, so they'll enjoy the 6% stats. But this should be the third dragon coming through. The movement speed completed for the Chiefs as they push on and look for this big victory, the big 10-0.
Yeah, and you mentioned it already. The theme of this game, at least for teams that play Chiefs, seems to be reactive. Even Choo Choo's a bloodthirsty player when he's on point. Goes for blue build. And Swiper's just diving in. He doesn't care at all. Their Spooks gonna find Choo Choo's there. Damage onto the turret coming in. Swiper actually could be in a bit of trouble, taking up a lot of damage with his Frozen Heart, but they face tank the turret and just take it out.
Yeah, you say trouble for Swiper, but he's already so tanky. 2,600 health, so not the massive 4,000 health Sion just yet, but already got plenty of armor with the Frozen Heart. Happily able to tank up the turret, can of course activate the shield and have effective health that's affected by his armor, so makes him even tankier. To be honest, I don't mind the Iceborne Gauntlet being picked up by Choo Choo's. Usually it's the Trinity Force, the more aggressive option, just for a bit more turret damage, a bit more poke, as finally, okay, any hopes of the perfect game, whether it was the Dragon or not, are dashed by picking up that first turret. They need the Control Ultimate. They need the CC in fights. It's only the Iceborne Gauntlet, so it's only a small AoE slow. But unless Carbon's hitting these ultimates, which again haven't happened so far, the Chiefs have been very smart to not clump up their threats in a team fight. There's never any real clear options for the Glacial Prison. Choo Choo's is needed for any sort of consistent CC in a fight.
Yeah, he is. I actually agree there with the pickup, so I do like it there. But how much better is Legacy's team when it's ahead?
I mean, Legacy's team, when they have a ward advantage, if they could ever have the kind of pink ward advantage that we see coming through from Chiefs, if you're face-checking a Sejuani, even if you're a tank, she has a gap closer, she could flash and open up on your backline. There is the potential for Wombo coming through, but it's hard to execute against top teams, and they don't have that ward coverage. Playing behind, they have so few options. In a 5v5, in an open setting, when they're grouped under a turret, it's a miracle Sejuani ultimate, or it's nothing, or it's just watching as their turrets, the inhibitor, the Nexus all fall. They just don't have any other options. And now that they're so far behind and they can't even really take a Sejuani ult, I'm not really sure how they get back into this game, to be honest, Pastry Time.
Yeah, Swiper actually going to pop down the bottom, and he's gone super aggressive. Got an extra chain vest, so no Warmogs quite coming through yet. He actually has a very quick Elixir of Iron there as well.
The Elixir of Iron is so strong. To have that early tenacity, to have the ability to walk through and just have the tenacity to go along with his team. They have options aplenty to the Chiefs. And again, Legacy, they're just kind of waiting. They're waiting to get to the late game. They're waiting to pick up items on their carries. But what will be left on the map for them to really contest for in a few minutes' time?
Well, I'm not even sure if the late game's that good for Legacy either. Chiefs have a serviceable teamfight comp in the late stages of the game. Cogmore's getting good with the two items here. I mean, we've already talked about the front line. It's tanky already. Spooks looks like he's skipping his Sightstone as well, potentially. So he's actually going to be a tanky Vi and be a secondary tank for his team as well.
And there's consistent damage from both Swiffer and Radiant coming out. So I agree with you. It's a two-threat comp for sure, but consistent damage mid laner with, just a terrifying hyper carry Cogmore in the back line. Okay, you assassinate one of those threats, maybe things come back for Legacy. Of course, they have a much higher damage top laner than the Chiefs do, so there is potential, but again, how are you going to get a pick when you can... And that's a pick right there.
Swiffer smells blood and just nails Choo Choo's with the combo.
The Ari from Swiffer has always been so impressive, but those are the picks that Legacy are crying out for, and it's the picks that Chiefs are getting every time.
Swiper is just face-checking the enemy team at this point. Spook's going to come in, finds Cardred, ulti's in. Cardred actually flashed out Ejim with a good ulti. He's going to get knocked up. Corky gets the Gilbert. Radiant just deletes poor Joanna off the map. Now Carbon going to get aggressed on. Swiper still tanking here, just in the enemy base, and Raider and Rosie Swiper's going to buy time. He's even having a bit of a giggle there. Is a Rumble going to go down there to Swiffer? They take out the turret, and every time, Swiper's not even doing anything. He's just buying time for his team to decimate these structures.
The strategic giggle leading to the flash charm coming through from Swiffer. They can turn on the style here, Chiefs, and you can see why. They're so far ahead, 11,000 gold at 29 minutes, and Swiper can already completely disregard the turret as he watches his mate Radio at the back pumping out massive amounts of damage.
Now he's in the bottom lane, pumping out plenty in the minions as well, just pushing down the bottom side of the map. First inhibitor already cleansed by the Chiefs in the mid side, and remember, Chiefs massively far ahead. It's not just 10-0 that they're playing for. Of course, we talk about it where this is probably the hardest matchup they'll have to face at this point, looking like they can, complete the last 4 games against what is mostly bottom table teams and get the completely undefeated season. But even more than that, Chiefs here with a couple more wins actually clinch first seed if they win here.
I mean, it's also the revenge and pride of a Page Time. It's answering all the questions put out in 2014. We started this season thinking Legacy have Chiefs' number, but on 2015 form, you can't say that. As Swiper, he's disregarding damage like it's going out of fashion. Nothing even tickles him.
Yeah, and I love the way they're playing it as well. I mean, the Chiefs don't have okay siege. Kog'Maw's quite good with the W under towers, but they're just diving Swiper into the distraction and cleaning out turrets. It's comical, but very effective.
I mean, the only issue in the previous turret dive is the fact that the turret aggro actually switched to Kog'Maw very early, so he had to back away. But you saw what Swiper wanted to do. He just wanted to walk to the front, auto attack, and use his CC and tank the turret. And if they're able to do that, Swiper's not dying anytime soon. He's got a Thorn Mail on top of his Frozen Hearts. Okay, it's not the 4,000 health sign, but it might about be the 4,000 armor at this point.
Yeah, just ignoring turrets for all intents and purposes here. Baron getting looked at here by Chiefs, going to go down very quickly. Swiffer actually just waiting up the top like a lot of good mid laners. Swiffer loves to do this as well. When his team's on Baron, he always wants to find a pick.
It's double percentage health damage between the denting blows and the Kog'Maw Biocane barrage. Swiper, I mean, Spooks is getting quite low, but they're going to get this eventually. Swiper's just disregarding the front line completely. Carbon wishes the model size was a bit small. In fact, it is as the Elixir of Iron runs down. That's important because they're not being able to get this Glacial Prison past the Scion.
Yeah, I mean, Swiper actually was blocking the entire choke just with his body there on the Scion, and goes back to shop with another Elixir now as well, even a Pink Ward as well, just to continue strangling Vision. Legacy in place with this Dragon. Looks like they'll pick it up here, so a second Dragon for them does give them something back in this game, but the Scrying Lob's going to see them. Chiefs might not care. They might just shove down the mid lane.
Well, that's what they're doing. You can see on the minimap they're pushing aggressive because they see a massive minion wave in the top lane also rotating. So they don't have minions in the bottom lane, but the 6th man is helping them out in the top lane. And Corki, Nate, he's going to have to run away from Spooks and the Baron buff minions.
Yeah, Spooks just going to clean through these minions, uses excessive force there just to get them through, and Radiant, plenty of damage to throw. An extra BF sword. Spooks goes for a very long ride there onto Tallywack, but Volt breakers his way out. Rosie going to peel in, Swiper diving in the back. The turret already gone. Gets ultied up, does there. Now Swiffer going to dive in the back. Great charm away there, almost onto Cardron, and fades away with the Orb of Deception. Second inhib going to fall now as well. And Legacy are running out of base to give Chiefs.
With the Elixir of Iron, they just can't get the Glacial Prison past Swiper. To be honest, Spooks and Swiper picking up the Elixir of Iron once they both have it. There's just no room for the Glacial Prison to sneak away. You might even need to see the Flash Ultimate past the Scion to be able to get to the backline. They've still got the Wombo, but there's never going to be a Wombo when there's one AoE CC and the Scion's eating it for dinner.
Yeah, shades of Season 1 here. Of course, the classic counter to Ashe being Cho'Gath for anyone who used to play back in those days. And a very similar flavor there. Just blocking the big skill shots they see, literally.
At some point, I want to see just Hotshot leveling up, getting to Challenger with that Scion sitting at the front. He'll pick up red buff. We all know Hotshot. He wants that buff, but there's just not much you can do when your hyper carriers can go off at the front, do whatever they want, and they know they have a Scion to eat up every single skill shot.
Yeah, and the Chiefs just going to push in there, looking for the last inhibitor turret. His own Legacy have had so few options in this game with the start that the Chiefs had. They've done such a good job controlling this game. Their items are plenty for both the carriers here. Yeah, sure, it's a 2-threat comp here for Chiefs, but what threats they are at this stage.
And look, I understand teams respecting the Chiefs and their ability to play pick comps and think, okay, what works against a pick comp? Well, maybe we can outlast them, but you'd have to think as we're moving towards 10-0, teams start to understand that if they don't go aggressive, if they don't try and make things happen for themselves, the Chiefs will take every advantage, they'll take every creep, they'll take every camp, and there's nothing left for you to fight for in the late game.
Yes, Swiper diving in there, actually Locker popped as well. Tidal Wave's going to move in, and again, Chiefs just ignoring everything but the tower. Rady gets a kill into Sejuani. Tower still getting low as well. The last inhibitor is going to go down very quickly here. Swiper actually a good slow there onto Ejim. Choo-Choo's dodges the bubble. Swiffer though in the backline diving in. Swiper actually gets a kill. Choo-Choo's gets charmed there, and and Swiffer just destroys him. Cardron goes down there as well, and Legacy going to think about that last game. Swiffer's already went big in that game. It's going massive in this one.
It's going massive, and the Chiefs will win this game so comfortably. 18-1 is the final score. 11-1 is the turret score. 3-1, I believe. Maybe even 3-2 is the Dragons, but this all tells the tale of a game that the Chiefs never look like losing.
No, and not a perfect game there for the Chiefs, but pretty damn close as it comes to the end of it.
Pretty damn close with an innovative comp. It was nice to see the Kog'Maw Nami lane come up because there's a complete lane matchup. It actually blew Corki Janna away in lane. This is with the lane bully Corki coming in. Just could not stand up to the amount of pressure that Kog'Maw was putting out. He had to back even with a massive wave under the turret just because he fell so low. And that was just the flavor across the map. It was an embarrassment of riches for Spooks because all his lanes were winning and he could farm, he could gank, he could do whatever he wanted.
And that's pretty much what the Chiefs did all that game. Another great performance. 10-0 now for the Chiefs, but Legacy going to look to pick up a few points here, at least in their OPL run. Don't go anywhere after the quick break. Legacy versus Rich Gang will be our final match of the day.